All right, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing this Wednesday evening? Hope you all had a good, productive day and week since we last talked last Wednesday. Got a lot of good, really interesting things for you this evening. At least I hope you think so. And just before we kick off, on a quick reminder, I have my partners, Ken Lutz and Carol Cruz, here with me. They're going to be helping out. Ken is on Facebook Live, and Carol is monitoring the questions and answers in case there's a really good question that comes up as we're going through the report tonight. She'll tap me and we'll read out the question and we'll try to answer it real time. Also really happy for the first time to have our lending partner, Rochelle, with us this evening. When I've been trying to carry two buckets, the real estate and the lending, and I really feel that I needed someone better than I am at explaining what's going on in the mortgage market. So I'm really happy that she's joining us tonight. She's got some cool information for you, some actionable information, whether you're a realtor or a client listening tonight. So thank you, Rochelle, for joining us, and we'll get to her in a little bit. But we're going to kick off this evening with probably the most important slide I've shown since we've started this. And some of you have been with us from the start, right around March 20th or so when we started, giving you these weekly updates on what's going on in the market, trying to answer the questions, not only what has just happened to us in Silicon Valley real estate with stay-in-place orders and everything else that was hitting us seemingly on a daily basis, and where we are now, almost 100 days later, and then the most important thing, what's going to happen next. And this Silicon Valley property report is maybe new in this format, but it's something I've been doing every week since 2008 or 9 when I started here at Intero Real Estate, and then when I moved to manage the Silver Creek Valley office. And I always found that that Silicon Valley real estate moves so quickly that the traditional metrics that we rely on, year-over-year data, month-over-month data, and reporting on what has happened in April, May, in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months or more before was valuable, didn't really answer the question, what do I do now? What if I'm looking to buy or sell in the next 30 to 69 days, what do I need to know? What was forward looking? So let me show you in a real quick nutshell why I started recording all this information every single week so long ago and how it's helped us. So for those of you that have been in the business for a while, and if you haven't, ask someone, we all remember 2018 and how fast the market moved starting right off the bat in January, and then just went really, really, really fast, really hot, all the way through around June. And if you remember that time, I'll have you know, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are telltale signs that show you that something like that might happen. And in the last couple of weeks, I was waiting to really see the exact correlation and to show it to you, and here it is. In that time, in June 2017, and we recorded all this information, you can see it here, we noticed that active inventory in our market, especially in SFR, single-family residences, fell by over 30% year over year. Inventory, even though 2016 was a low inventory year, it dramatically fell in that time period. At the same time, our pendings in single family residences was growing, or at least flat, compared to the change in active inventory. And so we saw that move, and we're seeing it again today. So pay attention to this. Dropping inventory, June 2017, pendings flat but rising, and what that led to. What it led to was this. We saw that rapid increase in pendings from the start of the year, both years, while actives did not grow as fast. They grew, but not as fast. And it resulted where we started 2018 with the lowest inventory on record. I mean, I remember this, only 266 single family properties on our market in Santa Clara County, the 10th largest city in the country. It was so San Jose as the seat, and it was just amazing. And we remember what happened. And so this environment is now being replicated. That doesn't mean it's going to happen exactly the same way. The rest of 2017 looked like this. So here we are, mid to late June, and post SIP, things are coming back, and we're starting to see a telltale sign that led to really super low inventory with buyer demand in place. And I'm going the wrong way here. So what we found was it created a perfect storm for a fast start and the strongest spring in memory. And we had super low inventory environment, really low rates, historically low rates at the time, and a buyer appetite that was just almost insatiable. So keep this in mind as we go through the slides today and what we're talking about today, and mark this down as you come back week after week, and we'll see collectively and together, is this what's happening? If it continues to go this way for the next 5 to 6 months, you're going to have a really good idea of what's going to happen at the beginning of next year as we move into the selling season for 2021. So whether you're a buyer, a seller, you're a realtor or lender listening, you're getting a 6-month warning and an opportunity. It doesn't matter what the market does, as long as you know what's going to happen next. It gives you an incredible amount of power and leverage and ability to negotiate your position, no matter what position you're starting from. While everyone else is rightfully paying attention to what happened and what just happened and the recency bias of what just happened, you need to pay attention to what are we moving into? What are these telltale signs of the market telling us about what's going to happen next? The majority of buyers and sellers are not thinking in the next 30-day window. By definition, they're thinking 60, 90, 100, a year, 2 years out. And so people are sometimes afraid of prognosticating and guessing what's going to happen. And it's not guessing when you're just following the trends and understanding the correlation between inventory, interest rates, and buyer demand. And these things don't change. So watch it. Keep this in mind as we continue to tonight, and keep it in mind as we continue week to week and see what these numbers do. See if they follow the same trend that they did between June of 2017 through December of 2017, and what that meant for the start of 2018. All right, so with that teaser, let's jump into what's going on right now. Great article, actually a series of articles from housingwire.com. I think it's the paid section, so I'll share a little bit of it with you today to set the stage for what's going on. And they gave it a great title, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of the Housing Market 5 months into the pandemic, right? And there's good news, there's bad news, and there's just some in between. So due to COVID-19 and the nationwide shutdown, economic charts have shown waterfall downturns, V-shaped recoveries, W-shaped. We've touched on many of them here in past shows. And it's been a roller coaster ride with all the scare and none of the fun. I like that line. Now that we've been whiplashed with negative and positive economic data, we talked about that last week, where we were celebrating only 13% unemployment. That's a bad number, but it was net positive week over week and month over month. And so that's what they mean there, where we've had that good news and positive news, negative and positive news. So it might be a time to pause to consider the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here it is. The good first, and that's a great future for us. The demographics are on our sides. We are in the early stages of the most prominent pro-housing demographic patch ever recorded in U.S. history. The number of Americans aged 26 to 32 is massive, much bigger than the total population of many countries. And by some calculations, bigger than the generation that started the real housing boom in America, which were the baby boomers. It's a massive number. It's maybe delayed in arriving into the housing market, but eventually it will enter. And every year that passes that they don't hit hard just creates a bigger opportunity likelihood that the next year is the year. So follow these trends. This demographic will impact us. The only question is when. And so that's the good. We've taken hits. We've recovered quickly over the first over these first 100 days of COVID 19 and all the economic news. So we're looking sharp, we're looking good. There are some headwinds, but big picture, that demand of buyers needing housing is massive coming forward. And so I agree with them here that this is always the positive news that we have to look forward to. The other great thing that they point out, which is why I asked Rochelle to be with us, is because if you recall when we started around March 15th, when lending really shut down, we have found since then, because Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae were and still are under government conservatorship, credit tightened but did not freeze. It got tighter, but it did not go away completely. And there was just enough throughput to satisfy the decreased opportunity when people move their homes off the market. So it was just enough. It saved our lenders and servicers and investors and allowed us to continue to do business. And now that things are getting better, they're opening up a little bit more, which is all great news and why I wanted a lender on tonight to talk about more about this in a little while. All right, so going forward, the bad, all right? When we're talking about what's gonna happen, we can't just sugarcoat everything. We have to look at what are possible headwinds, what are things that we might run into, and that will allow us to make really smart decisions. So the possible bad, started 2019 with negative year-over-year demand and rising inventory, which was positive for cooling home prices. That continued all the way through with lower rates in 19 and 2020 and the dislocation of inventory due to the shutdowns. Home prices have become too hot again. This sounds like a crazy statement from a realtor, but I'll explain it in a while. So based on the NAR's median sales price, the home prices are growing and growing and growing. This has been a concern for many economists for years because this period, this demographic that is going to come to our rescue and grow our business, they have to come into a market that they can afford. They have to come into a market where they can take up any increased inventory that we see in coming years. So that is a potential headwind that we have to think about. And I'm going to show you when we get into the data locally that we're excited about the positive news and the movement in the market, but the buyers are rushing in and the sellers are not. That is putting pressures on prices. That could negatively affect our market and slow it down. If they move up too fast, then that pulls more buyers out of the market when they're ready and primed to come in. So pay attention to all these things. It's not always a great thing when the prices keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. There has to be some equilibrium. There has to be some ability for these new buyers to come into the market. So I don't think that's terrible news, and it's lessened. This is national. It's lessened in our local markets, but we'll touch on that in a second. All right, the ugly. The strong economy and hot job market were perfect landscape for a solid 2020 housing market, and we started that way. We started really, really strong. We went through our bumps, and now we re-hit that reset button and started strong again around April 15th and have been going strong since. So in hindsight, it's not surprising to see housing rebound so quickly from the downturn due to the shutdowns. The greatest short-term economic shock we've experienced in modern history because we were so strong before it. I remember being worried. I remember being a little scared. I remember not knowing what was going to happen. And a lot of us were in the same boat. But we were so strong going in that we took the shock, we took the hit, and we were able to quickly recover. But we're still seeing far away from we're still far away from seeing the economic data we had before the crisis. Remember that. I know the recency bias is, oh my God, we recovered, we're back in the market, things are strong. But when you look at the totality of things, the market's not all the way back to where it was. Yes, we're recovering quickly, but do we have the economic indicators going forward that we did pre? No, we don't. Again, I'll refer to what we talked about last week. When they came out with 13% unemployment, we were popping champagne bottles, right, for 13% unemployment because we had just hit 16 and 17 and we were worried about 20 or 21%. So keep that in mind. After that euphoria of like, oh, it's not as bad as it was, wears off over time, we'll realize, well, 13% is bad, and 10% is bad, and 8% is bad, and 5% is bad for the kind of market we need to continue to go up and up. So keep these things in mind. Take the wins when you can get them, but be mindful of these headwinds. Some are slight, some are heavier, and if they happen, there's nothing you can do to stop them. But you can make smart decisions about your position, your next steps, and maneuver around any of these things if they come to pass, if they come to bear when it comes to buy or sell real estate. And this is why you need to be completely up to date on what's going on and have a whole host of advisors on the real estate and the lending side. Because one thing we'll talk about today is we are in a short period where we've always relied on trailing data to tell us what's going to happen right now. We're in a period, and I mentioned this in the last couple of weeks, our year-over-year data, our month-over-month data is not going to be as reliable in the next several months to a year as it has been in the past, because we've never been in a shut down the whole economy period. And I'm really happy and I'm really pleased that we recovered as fast as we did. But don't be surprised if some of these lingering effects start to affect us later, even if we avoided them right now. Okay, so I don't want to be negative, but I want to be mindful of challenges we might have to face and plan ahead for. All right, and thinking of staying positive, again, that's a national picture. That's what's happening everywhere, and it does matter to us. But this was another great article that I want to share, and we kind of know this, we live it, we see it, but I want to point it out because the data is starting to demonstrate what we feel, what we know, and what we believe, and that's areas that are reliant, the industries reliant on tech are really, really, really bouncing back even further than the general bounce back in the country and in the world. So tech hubs may have the edge in the housing recovery. And they're right. Housing Market Recovery Index, this is from Realtor.com. This is a new index that they've created with 100, the baseline being January 1st of this year. And so we can see how far it fell and how far we are back to it. So they see the week ending June 13th, and nationally, the overall housing market is inching towards recovery as buyer interest and home price growth surpass pre-COVID-19 levels. That's what's driving us. The buyers coming back in strong, really pushing the market forward. And that is pushing home price growth up. But more ground, locally, 4 new markets reached the recovery benchmark, taking the total to 8 across the country of the 50 largest markets. And what's really helpful to us in Silicon Valley, the overall recovery index is showing greatest recovery in Denver, Boston, Seattle, San Francisco, which includes us, and San Diego, all 5 being established tech hubs with strong job markets. Now, I don't think I have to educate anyone on, if we're talking about tech hubs, we are the mega tech hub of the world, not just the country. So anytime you hear news relative to housing, pricing, and anything like that, and we're seeing that overall strength in tech-heavy centers, we're the mecca. We're the place to be. So you could expect that of those areas listed there, we're doing it better than the others. So, and you're seeing that if you're active in the market right now, you're seeing almost every indicator, national, global, even regional, Silicon Valley is that much stronger and that much better. All right, so, and it's all about job growth and the ability to continue to work, even with stay in place, the ability to continue to hire, and the ability for these companies to see a really positive future. Tech, the need for tech, the want for tech is being amplified in this period. It's not being lessened. And I'm talking about everything. I know we've recently as a family started to go back out and enjoy the opening up of the markets. And you go into these restaurants and they don't bring you the bill anymore. There's so many little tips and things that you see in normal, mundane things of life, right? There's a QR code and you scan it and you get to a site and you pay and you tip and you do all that. And I remember that was always around in some places, but now it's everywhere. And so that's just a small example of where tech in COVID-19 and stay in place is even more pronounced, even more prevalent, and that is a powerful headwind, or tailwind, I should say, for our economies that are reliant and driven by technology. So good news all around in that respect, especially where we live here in Silicon Valley. And I think you're going to see that in the numbers. This is also from Realtor.com's recovery index. And so this is an interactive site. I really highly recommend that you go and look it up so you can see it, you can play with it, you can click on it and look at all the different key factors there. But what they're recording, again, with the beginning of the year as the baseline, 100, they have the recovery index, the housing supply, pace of sales, home price, and housing demand index. And so here what you see in the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara market index, everything recovering nicely. We had the massive drops everywhere, but we see here, and this is what's driving our market right now. It's almost completely buyer driven. This is the housing demand. Not only has recovered, but blown past the index and other areas around the country. It's like, if I'm going to buy real estate, I want to buy it in Silicon Valley, and I want to buy it now before the prices get higher. That is what the buyers are thinking. The problem, if there's a problem, is that housing supply is not recovering at the same pace. And so again, it seems we're realtors, we're homeowners. We like when that happens because that means the values go up. But we can get into markets and we can get into areas if the inventory is so low, when demand is so high, it drives up the prices so high, so fast, that it actually almost overheats and shuts down the market. That's what happened in 2018. We started really fast, we started really hot, we're going 200, 300 K over asking price, 10, 15, 20 offers per property. And we blew through that inventory. We priced out a bunch of people and almost everybody had to reset. And we went into a flattened period of activity and price appreciation all the way through October, November of last year. So this is the almost too much good news is not good news scenario. And the only way we can solve that is if we get more properties on the market. And this is what I want to drive home today. We've done a great job of educating the buyers. We have to go out and educate our sellers that this is a fantastic time to sell. And this is a great graph to show it. This is demand. This is the pace of new inventory on the market. That demand is going up higher and higher and higher. Interest rates are staying really, really low. Every potential buyer out there knows it's a good time to buy. And that's a perfect environment for a seller to get in the market. I just don't think that news is translating down to the sellers as quickly and as coherently as it is to our buyers. So let's change that. All right, so really quickly, another great article from Inman News. I'm not going to go through all of this, but it is kind of talking about some of these headwinds. And I think does a great job of explaining all the good news needs to be tapered and needs to be taken with a little bit grain of salt. They say, while housing has thus far seen a strong recovery, experts say prices may actually fall later this year. Factors such as unemployment and foreclosures could also weigh down on the market. Again, that's talking about a national picture. I don't think we're looking at falling prices in California, certainly not in Silicon Valley, but that general sentiment is there, that there are some lingering effects from the shutdown, from COVID-19, from unemployment, from forbearances, that at some point will slow the rate of appreciation. And again, understanding and knowing really what happened in 2018 and seeing it take off and then taper slowly, and it felt like it was going backwards. And that's what we might face here. I don't think we have a scenario where we're going to face falling prices in Silicon Valley. We may in other parts of the country, as these people are predicting. But when we focus into the relative strength of the economy in Silicon Valley in general, the relative strength of the housing market relative to the rest of the country in general, you still see some potential drop off in activity, in the excitement and in the rush of buyers and sellers transacting later this year. And I'll show you in a few minutes, even locally, we are seeing, if you've been paying attention the last couple of weeks, when we show you how fast it's ramped up, how quickly it's been moving up, it has slowed down, not reversed, it's not going negative, it's still going up, but the rate of acceleration has slowed. And this is what they're talking about here. National, let's go talk about the local news. So some of the things that they are looking at as positives going forward. First, mortgages should stay low. We talked about this last week. Though modest price declines may be on the horizon in our local markets, a slowing down of appreciation. The good news for consumers of all stripes is that everyone who spoke to Inman believes low mortgage rates are here to stay through the coming months and beyond. Moreover, the impacts of low rates are already being felt. Taylor Marr, a lead economist and data scientist at Redfin, told Inman that the low rates are helping accelerate buyers coming back into the market. And that's likely to continue for most of the summer. Remember, we're about a third of the way through the summer, so most of the summer is a really interesting term there. We might have already been through most of the summer in terms of this statement there. So it's unlikely that mortgage rates are going to shoot up very quickly, and we've talked about that, but there are still some things to consider. Before we go back to mortgage rates and Rachelle's take on what's going on, I want to address this because it's been coming up more and more. People may leave cities. Another trend that is already playing out and which will likely continue into the coming months is a shift among buyers towards bigger housing types as well as toward less urban areas. So I want to share with you some data that I've looked up because I think the sentiment and this idea is absolutely true. But there are so many headlines, it's so prevalent in everything I'm reading and things we share, I'm sure things you're hearing, and I'm part of it. I was sharing you past weeks how fast Morgan Hill, Gilroy, South County is growing in terms of buyer activity relative to the rest of the Bay Area. So I want to pull it back. I want to really help you understand what that means. And this is, again, from a great site that I've really been relying on, the AEI Housing Market Nowcast, and they addressed this with facts and numbers. So they looked at it and they said, there is, in fact, a year-over-year change in urban core and non-urban purchase rate locks. So the urban core, while doing really well in terms of buyer activity back into the market, is not keeping pace with non-urban rate locks. So again, rate locks are a really fantastic indicator of future activity so far in this COVID and post-COVID period, or at least post-SIP period. And this is the headlines that you're reading. And while true, even here in San Francisco, here's the non-urban really rising fast, urban core not keeping pace, okay? But I don't want you to fall trapped to this, and this is what I mean by it. When you really look at the data and you see the least dense codes here marked as 1, 2, and 3, their year-over-year change is dramatic, 41% year-over-year change. But the more dense areas are still positive year over year. And here's the kicker. Do not get seduced by this number when the vast majority of transactions are still in the densest areas. This is 80% of all the transactions are still in our more dense areas. So this is reading the headlines, understanding, and not overreacting to the headlines. Where are you going to be? Where are you going to transact? Where are you thinking? The headlines are saying everyone's running for the suburbs. Everyone's running. No, they're going there in way larger numbers than they were a year ago. But where are the majority of transactions? Where are the majority of buyers looking? And where are the majority of transactions going to transpire? The urban core. All right. So do with that what you will, whether you're a realtor, a lender, buyer, or seller. Understand the trends, understand the markers, but don't be seduced by the headlines. Where are you going to transact? Where are the majority of people wanting to live and continuing to look to live in? Right here in the core, right here in Silicon Valley. Fantastic news for our suburbs and outlying areas, and we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation today. But this is why I really enjoy this and why I love to share it with all of you, because the headlines are designed to get your attention and grab your attention, clickbait, subscriptions, whatever you want to call it. But that's not how we have to transact. That's not how we have to make our decisions. It has to be based on the real numbers and the facts. So I wanted to point that out really quickly. And it's really something you want to consider and pay attention to. That headline will continue to be really sexy, really popular. It's not where all the business is, okay? That's not going to change. So going back to rates, and it's kind of the same thing. The headlines are saying one thing, that mortgages are tightening. It's harder to get a loan. It may be true, but it's relative. In the Bay Area, we're jumbo loan land, right? And so if the headlines are out there that it's hard or impossible in some cases to get a jumbo loan, that might be negative news to our buyers and sellers. So as professionals, you really have to understand what that means. And because as realtors, we're not qualified to really dig into what this means, this is why I asked a lender to come in and talk to us and really talk about this. You can get a loan. You should try to qualify. You should jump into the market because you see prices rising, but get past the headlines and straight to an expert on what all this means. So with that, I want to welcome Rochelle. And if Rochelle, if you can unmute yourself, say hello.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited and honored to partner with the Lutz and Kreutz team and Robert here this evening. A little bit about myself. I've been in the industry about 20 years and excited to work with the best of the best this evening. So it's great to be here. As Robert mentioned, the real estate market right now is a hot market. We're seeing buyers just pouring in, flooding us, which is exciting for all of us here. Both exciting for clients, of course, because they're able to purchase their dream home. Exciting for our agents because we're making dreams come true. And of course, us, we'd love to partner with you on that. So a little bit about Prosperity. We have over 35 investors that can help tailor a loan specific to a buyer situation. So Robert alluded toward, earlier that some of the big banks, some of the other financial institutions had really tightened their guidelines. And what we have found that lenders are loosening up their guidelines and we're seeing a lot more people going into contract. So don't be discouraged if you're working with another lender that maybe is not qualifying today. Reach out to myself, reach out to a lender partner that you currently work with Prosperity. We're here to support you. We're here to find out what that particular client's needs are. We know that some institutions have increased the requirement for down payments, especially in the jumbo space where Robert mentioned earlier. We have programs available at Prosperity still in the jumbo space with as little as 10% down. So it's a huge win, again, with the real estate market right now being as hot as it is and rates as low as they are. We're able to help qualify our buyers and really get them prepared to find their dream home. So a couple of things to keep in mind. We touched on down payment. There's creative ways that borrowers can get that, whether it's gift funds. We have, low down payment options with as little as 3%. So there's ways that we can help. When it comes to debt, don't be discouraged. A lot of the other institutions are requiring, mid 700 scores to get into the jumbo space. That's not the case for us. So even in the conforming space, there's an opportunity for us to sit down with the clients and see what we can do. Even if a client has no credit, I'll share an exciting testimony. A client was added on as an authorized signer and then within a few weeks was able to get pre-approved. So there is definitely ways that we're here to partner with you to get that client ready. And affordability, we touched on that. Rates are at record lows. It's a hot market. I mean, we're seeing rates in the low threes and even the twos right now. So it's an opportunity for clients to really leverage this time, leverage this opportunity to work with you, work with us to get them prepared. Even if you see a potential property and it's last minute, a buyer needs the same day pre-approval, reach out. That's what we're here for. We don't like to work on an emergency situation like that under pressure, but hey, we understand it's that, that's the nature of our business. So with that, what does this affordability mean for everybody with low rates? Well, it's an opportunity for those renters to stop paying someone else's mortgage. It's an opportunity for them to invest in their own legacy. With that, you have the stability. Once you get locked into a mortgage, it's like having an insurance policy. We know that your payment's not going to go up, say, if you have a 30-year fixed mortgage. We're drawing a line in the sand. For 30 years, that's your payment. When you're renting, you don't have that peace of mind. Your landlord can increase your payment when they have that opportunity, or increase the rent, I should say. So with that, you have the flexibility of making your house your home. If I want to add an addition onto my house, if I want to remodel my kitchen, my bathroom, I could do that when I own my home. But when I'm renting, I don't have that flexibility. So there's a lot of great advantages to be able to own. And with this, what we're finding is 90% of clients are saying that they've had a great experience with Prosperity. And overall, a client prefers to work with a one-stop shop experience when they're purchasing their home. So what do I mean by that? The beauty of Intero, the beauty of Prosperity is we also have our in-house title partners. So Orange Title, Orange Escrow, that can help partner with us. So they don't have to go anywhere. We're here to make the process easy, seamless, quick, and effortless. So lean on Robert, lean on the Lutz and Cruz team, lean on myself and Prosperity. We're here to help support you, help more buyers' dreams come true, and help all of you when it comes to your roles and just serving your clients. With that, thank you again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And I got to tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. And what I always tell realtors when they're trying to help their clients in these specific environments, when the market is moving fast, rates are low, buyers are interested, but if they're not acting on the day the properties are ready, the opportunity passes by. And there's a big opportunity cost when you're a day late, 2 days late, sometimes even half a day late. And so I've really been pleased with how Rachel has been dealing with the agents on our team and the clients that we're talking to. That was, I believe, unless you had more than one, our client that you were able to really help right within a day or two when they had some credit issues. So this is really important, as I'm going to show you our local data, Santa Clara, San Mateo, and San Benito. That I told you last week, it's moving fast, expected to keep moving this fast for certainly throughout June, probably through July. And then we'll deal with what happens next. But right now, you've got to be really flexible. You've got to be really nimble. You've got to know what you want. When you see it, you have to strike. That's how fast the market is moving right now. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone is happy that they didn't have to hear my voice for the whole hour. So that's a good thing. And I got to rest for a little while I listened to you. So here we go, jumping into Silicon Valley. I shared with you earlier those teasing slides at the very beginning, and I'll show you again this showing time index all the way back, recovered. I showed you last week that we had flattened for a week, and I said, pay attention. Does it continue to go up? Does it go down? It did both. So that starts to tell me, yeah, I think we've plateaued. Though too soon to call, but this is a strong indicator that we're probably not going to continue to get this mad rush week over week back into the market. But we'll take this. This is year over year better market right now in terms of buyer activity, starting at the very beginning when they're showing properties. So look at that and pay attention to this flattening of this at the very top of the market. All right, so here we go. Interesting data. We started to share it last week, the new sold versus canceled, withdrawn, and I've talked to you for several weeks. We had to stay in place. It all shut down, showing resumed and started to recover, and then it kind of tapered and dropped, and it's continuing to drop at the very same time that the lagging indicator of sales dropped more gradually after SIP was in place, and then did not recover immediately after showing resume, because it's a lagging indicator, that's normal. But now it's coming up here, and now it's moving up fast at the very moment that the new listings have tapered off. And again, if you're a homeowner, you love this. Everyone's bidding for your property. There's nothing else like it on the market. It's going to drive up your price. But long term, big picture, if these two lines continue to converge, eventually the prices will move up too fast, too soon, and it'll actually kind of overheat and stop the markets like a governor, right? And so we need more listings in place. However, here's the question I have. And, it didn't come up. Let me make sure it's right here. All right, I wanted to show you, we talked about many, many weeks ago when these listings did not come on the market. And I said, be careful. It's not that people said, I don't want to sell. It's that they were saying, I don't want to sell right now. And a big question was, when will they come back? Will they all come back at once? Will they come back over the next 3 months? Will they come back over a year? Early returns are in, and these missing listings, this is 2020, this was 2019, they have come back, but not at the rate we were hoping for. And you see this flattening. If they had said, okay, we know we can sell now, let's all go back in, this 1.5, 2 months of missing inventory should have popped in, but it didn't. We're barely at 2019 levels and now tapering off. So the question is, the missing inventory hasn't returned. If the recent drop in inventory is the delayed end of the selling season, when will those listings show up? And again, I remind you, we need them to kind of put this equilibrium back into the market. So we certainly don't want to have too many to sell at once to maintain equity levels, but this can be a problem too, and we'll continue to talk about this. Here's the change to contingent, and again, disappeared for a while, recovered, but once again, we're seeing trending above last year's pace. This is a good leading indicator that buyers continue to push back into the market. And you're like, of course, Robert, we know that now. Buyers are going crazy right now. In the change to pending, same scenario, same thing. Back to normal, trending over last year's pace, another leading indicator that buyers are back in the market. Sold listings, different story. Starting to trend above last year's pace. This is a lagging indicator that the buyers continue to push back in the market. But where are the listings? Where is the product that we're going to sell these really interested buyers wanting to take advantage of low interest rates and trying to get in at as low a possible price in a rapidly appreciating market? This is a problem when you're looking at the macro market. And I continue to say, the megaphone that was out there telling every potential buyer that they needed to come in now worked really well. There is no megaphone for sellers out there. That is individual realtors talking to their sphere, talking to their base, starting conversations and educating them on why it's a good time to sell. And the data is backing this up. So we see here, Santa Clara County, inventory, it's the first weeks in SIP that both SFR and condo townhomes trended down. Is the surge over? The Oculus numbers indicate early days that it might be over. Pendings rising week over week. This is part of the year they usually drop, but we see them rising. Past years, they drop. They drop, and that is normal for late June and through July and August. So we know our selling season was truncated, had a long vacation, and then came back really, really strong. But is it already over? Too early to call after 1 or 2 weeks, but I'm telling you, if I see this next week, it's over. Just too many years of doing this and looking at these numbers, it does not bounce back until later in the year. So pay attention to that. Really important, whatever part of the market you're in. Here is another big indicator, what I talked about early on in that teaser at the beginning of the presentation. Year over year, we're still down in inventory. Pendings are flat to rising year over year. Stark proof that the buyers rushed back in the market, but sellers are still cool on the market. Sellers are still not convinced that they should be on the market. The percent increase from start of the year, all categories taking off again. From our start to where we are, 156%, 127, 127, 50%. Pendings are going quickly, surpassing the rates of 2018 and 2019, except in the condo townhomes. Now, this has been Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week it's up, 1 week it's down, so pay attention to that. That's showing you that there's a lot more reluctance into that entry-level market, or maybe those confined spaces versus bigger, more open, single-family residences. All patterns, all trends you need to consider as you're making buying and selling decisions or consulting your realtors on what you should do and when you should do it. So things to pay attention to. All right, here was, for me, the most interesting thing. And I know I'm a data nerd, but it just really excited me to see this because, as we've been talking about, that surge back into the market after stay-in-place orders started to be lifted. From April to May, for sale grew at a great clip. Pendings exploded. Solds are lagging indicators, but even compared to March and early April, that negative 16% was a good number. We're tracking month to date versus the same period last month, and here's where I want to talk about. Negative. The first 23 days in June compared to the first 23 days in May, for sales down, and the pendants still going strong. Now you see that lagging indicator of solds going to be very positive through June, and now you're going to, in around July 12th, July 15th, you're going to get the closed numbers and say, oh my God, the market's back. If you've been watching and paying attention, you knew that 5 weeks ago, and this is why you watch, I hope. And now, while everyone in 14 days or so is going to like fantastic news, I'm telling you right now, these are headwinds. This is not negative, but it is a slowing of the pace. We are not putting enough properties on the market to maintain the appetite of the buyers. It's like putting too much fuel on a fire, it'll burn itself out. So we have to put more product on the market, at least a little more, to keep the interest, to keep the affordability of those looking right now. And again, I'll stress, this is why I asked Rachel to be here, because affordability is going to start to be a factor for the buyers you're working with, or if you're a buyer yourself. And if that's the case, you have to understand there are good programs, including jumbo, despite the headlines, with still historically great rates. And while you're seeing the prices go up, that low interest rate is going to maintain your monthly payment. So you have to have all the news, all the information, and leading information. And this is why I share it with you. So I won't spend so much time on each future slide. Just know these month versus month to date numbers are all flattening, not going negative. Don't misquote me. We're not going backwards, but I know this county, I know this valley. When it's not 100% straight up, it feels like it's going backwards, and it is not. But it is a headwind, things to pay attention to. This is slowing down. This is a lagging indicator, so it'll continue to rise for another month or so. It'll start to flatten in August. But remember, those August closings will be June and July contracts. That's why I call it a lagging indicator, but you'll know it now, all right? Sold to list price ratio is still strong, still getting right around what they're asking for. Days on market, I'm still not paying attention to. Maybe next month I'll pay more attention to. But again, if you don't remember, for a short time period, MLS was not counting days on market, so I'm not trusting what this number says. We'll get back to it in future weeks. The new listings, again, this is what I want to point out again. April to May, rushed back into the market. We recovered. It flattened, it dropped, it came back on strong, 43% increase from April to May. And now only a 5.8% increase. okay? That is not normal for June, mind you. It does not increase in June. So in that point of view, this is a positive. But based on the rush that we just experienced, and if we're accepting that this is the selling season delayed into June, this is not a strong enough number to maintain this rate of growth in pendants. And we continue to see that here. The absorption rates in the county, fantastic start from April to May, everyone jumping back in, continuing to go strong 3/4 of the way through June. That is strong enough to maintain through the end of June and through July. The only thing that will stop it is if there's no inventory and the prices go too high and the buyers pull back and say, that's too much. And they'll probably just take a break. In fact, I know they'll just take a break. And that'll allow, little technical term here, appraised values to catch up to list values, which will then bring some buyers back into the market. So everything is a cycle. You have to be really understanding of how these things work, and is not negative, it's not positive, it's what do you do with the news. So this is the focus I want you to have, is the rate of appreciation. Fantastic start, got back into the market, but I said in a meeting earlier today, I said, when in real estate, when you reach a consensus, and we are at a consensus, I think, that the market is hot and the market is back. When you reach a consensus, that means the conditions and the activities that created the consensus are past. And now we're on to create a new consensus. So I'm telling you now, there's headwinds. I'm telling you, it's slowing down a little bit. Everyone will report that when the numbers are reported end of June, end of July. You're hearing it now. It'll still be positive. It's still going up, but not at the rate it was. And that should affect your decisions, buying or selling, consumer or professional. And the lagging indicator of closing is very strong. It dropped into May. Those were April and March decisions. And now you see the May and June decisions coming in and showing fantastic numbers. So all around positive everywhere. Active listings, I told you last week, don't let the red bother you because they're smaller red numbers. Guess what? They're bigger red numbers this week. What are we doing? Let's go out and spread the message that it's a great time to sell. Spread the good news of how sellers in this market are being rewarded. They are still good, but it reversed from last week. Last week, I think only Almaden had a better number this week than last week. Everyone else, the year-over-year active listings for this week in June got worse. Fewer properties coming onto the market throughout the county, while buyers are going nuts. More black numbers, more positive year over year, buying everything in sight. We need more inventory to keep the equilibrium between buyers and sellers as something of a reasonable number. And I hope I'm making myself clear on, I'm not favoring buyers, I'm not favoring sellers, but any good market has to have some equilibrium. Neither supply nor demand can get too far separated from the other, or it creates a bad situation. And that's what I'm afraid of right now with what we're seeing in every number, in every market, from San Mateo down through San Benito. You see it here again, South County, numbers worse than they were last year in terms of new inventory and properties on the market, and the buyers are loving it. Positive all over the place. San Mateo County, what we're starting to see is a trend. The drop in, frankly, San Francisco and San Mateo was steeper, was further. The recovery is not coming back as fast as Santa Clara County. Very interesting data. Still positive everywhere. Inventory rising. Both categories moved up this week. Pendings in SFRs back down in condo townhome. And there's that yo-yo effect. Positive one week, big time negative the next week. So watch that if you're in that market for buyers, sellers, or professionals in the condo townhome market in San Mateo County. I was really bullish last week, and then it really disappointed me this week. But we can only deal with the market we were given, and as long as we understand the numbers, we can make good decisions. The year-over-year changes, again, basically flat all over the place in both categories, and the percent increase from the start of the year Actives are far outpacing pendings. Again, that's very different from Santa Clara. Santa Clara, the pendings are outpacing the actives. I think this will recover. I think it's just delayed because generally price points are higher in San Mateo. So I think there's a delayed effect, but they're coming back. If you're in San Mateo, don't overreact to the lagging numbers. Don't overreact to closed comparables that were made, decisions made in April and May coming out of SIP. Pay more attention to the lead indicators, which show a strong, robust, recovering market. And this is what I'm talking about. So those overall numbers, again, not as good, not as strong rebound as Santa Clara County, but still positive. Jumped 18% in listings from April to May. Pendants jumped again here, but not as fast and not as high as Santa Clara County. And here too, you see it flattening a little bit. So they'll be saved by the price points. They're much higher than Santa Clara County. It doesn't move as fast in the rebound, but all of this is net positive, and pendings are still far outpacing available inventory. The buyers still want what the sellers are offering and are willing to fight for it to the seller's benefit. Same story here. I'll show it to you, but I'm not going to go deep into it because I don't trust these numbers yet. New listings, here's a story I'm telling you. 42% increase April to May. Slowed down. It's still an increase, still going up, but the rate of increase, not as fast. Pay attention to that. Not keeping pace with the buyer appetite. The pending data, again, you see it here, jumped from 48 to 63, continues to grow to 78%, which is one of the highest rates in the last 15 months. It would be right around here. That's the leading indicator that I'm asking you to consider strongly if you're transacting in San Mateo County. The lagging indicators don't seem as strong, but buyers and sellers are going to make decisions on information on the ground right now, sentiment right now, and going forward, and that is all showing positive numbers going up. That should push pendings higher. Hopefully that'll push prices higher, which will help more sellers get into the market to keep this market going strong. Same thing here, slight drop from April to May. This was March, April data closing in May, and this is April, May data closing in June, and it's wrapping up quickly, and it should be even stronger in June and July. So again, overall, really fantastic numbers if you're looking and paying attention to the leading indicators and what's going to happen next. San Benito County, again, got to give them love. Pound for pound, the strongest market right now. It's a small market, but give them credit where credit is due. Third straight week, inventory is dipping, and that's a big change. This is what, an 8 to 9% drop in 2 weeks in active inventory, while pendings are still going hot. Look at this. Look at the imbalance between the pendings and the active inventory. That is 2018, 2017 type numbers, and in fact, way better than those numbers. So, great news, right? Except you cannot sell what's not on the market. And this is good short term. This is going to be good this week, next week, probably another 2 or 3 weeks. If we do not create more actives, that will become too heated. Buyers will pull back, and then we'll see the natural slowdown in the market. Even though right now everyone's rightfully excited, rightfully happy, and there's that consensus today was built in previous months. I need you as a professional or as a consumer to consider your buying or selling decisions on what will the consensus be when I'm in the market. And these are the things I'm trying to point out when I show this. All right, the year-over-year numbers, flat. Down year-over-year, super fast year-over-year here on pendings. The increase, we are at the same number of listings today, or Monday at least, that we were on January 2nd of this year, while pendings have exploded by 173%. That is a hot market by any definition. But again, you can't sell what's not on the market. The buyer demand is clear and it's exaggerated here, but it's not going to be able to be maintained if we don't put more properties on the market. So If I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, I'm sorry, but that's just what's needed in this market. And I got to make sure that we're all on top of it. We're all spreading the good news. We're all reaching out to our database of clients, past clients, and letting them know, just have these conversations. It's a great time to sell. Share these numbers. Show them the buyers want what you have. If this is the time for you to sell, you will be well rewarded. And if they're paying attention to, well, I heard loans aren't available and I heard the jumbo market is dead, this is why I brought Rachel on to share with you. That is not true. It may be for some potential buyers, but for the seller, it doesn't matter how restricted the buyer's market is, it's still far surpassing and outweighing the seller market. And you need to know there are places and people to go to talk about. So if you're a listing agent and you think, well, I don't care what the rates are doing, you absolutely must care, because that's going to be one of the objections a seller might have on why they love you, they love your presentation. If we were in the middle of SIP and buyers were not in the market, I would list with you. If you don't know to share that with them and you can't share this information, or if you can't get Rochelle on the phone and say, I absolutely can get a loan for every buyer that'll line up out your door to buy your house, you're not going to get the listing. And you did all the hard work, you did all the good work, and you just left out that last needed piece. And that's why I can't stress enough. You're a realtor. You have to understand your markets. In this period, you have to focus on the recent data, current data, so we understand what our market's doing in COVID-19 territory relative to previous years, so we can extrapolate and make really smart decisions with really good advice. And my goodness, make sure your lender's as good as you. In fact, hope they're better than you. That's going to help you more than anything in this market. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you take all the good news I shared with a healthy dose of some yeah buts, some headwinds out in the market. They're not to scare you, they're to educate you and allow you to navigate and do the best job possible to educate and articulate to your buying and selling clients on all the things that they have to consider in this market. So with that, I am completely out of gas. I want to thank Rochelle for joining us this week. You are so awesome. I'm already going to book you for next week. Thank you to Carol and Ken, my partners. They're doing a great job back there on Facebook Live and checking, make sure that I am upright and talking clearly. So hope you all have a great evening. Have a great week. And I hope to bring you as much information next week as we did this week. And until then, I'll see you guys later. Good night.
Night.